So, hi, good morning, friends. Hope all of you and your family members are doing very well, hale and hearty. Okay. My name is Atul Govill, CTO for India Glycols and General Secretary for our CIOs of India Association. A very warm welcome to this live and exclusive session on personal branding by none other than one of the best known branding gurus in current times, the one and only Harish Bijoor. Harish Bijoor, we all know, he's a brand guru, a thought leader, and a faculty for almost 20 years for the prestigious Indian School of Business. So I think before we start, let's have a context about this session. So we are all aware that in these hyper competitive times, whilst many of us are actually focused on driving operational excellence and profitability and maybe branding initiatives for our respective organizations, what we often miss out is, and what we often ignore is, our own self, our own personal identity in the marketplace as professionals, and which comes under the umbrella of personal branding. And and like many of us would think that personal branding is about what I think about myself, but it's not the case actually. It's about how people who matter perceive me. Okay, people who matter. Okay, how do they perceive me as an individual, as a professional, as a brand? Do they recognize me as a brand? So the point is, effective personal branding would help us differentiate each one of us from the competition, and it actually helps build trust with our prospective clients. It could be prospective employers, or it could be with other business partners. So this is the brief context I just wanted to share. And before we start the session with Harsh, I would request Kamal Karnatak, President of CIOs of India, to say a few words, and then also introduce Speaking Tree Leadership, with whom we have engaged to start this series of executive learning sessions. Over to you, Kamal.
Yeah, thanks, Atul. So good morning, dear friends. Let me welcome you all on behalf of CIOs of India. Most of you are already familiar with CIOs of India because you keep attending our sessions, but for the benefit of some new members, I will briefly introduce CIOs of India. CIOs of India started more than 25 years ago as Information System Managers Forum. At that point of time, the term CIO was non-existent. So few information system managers got together and they created a platform for all IT heads to share knowledge, to create a kind of community. When it was set up in 1996, the vision was to build a strong network of IT professionals across India to share knowledge and to help each other. And 24 years later, we are proud to say the purpose remains the same. CIOs of India is non-profit organization made for CIOs, run by CIOs and for CIOs. As a CIOs of India, we take a lot of initiatives. Many of you are already aware, so I will briefly describe some of them. Gyan Hub, where one CIO call other peer CIOs and share knowledge. So we keep on doing those kind of Gyan Hub session. We did with Indian Oil, we did with Hero MotoCorp, Indian Glycols, Mother Dairy, Radico Khaitan. Then there is Gyan Bites, the newsletter, which we keep on sending to all of you who have subscribed. We send a president's letter, we send a newsletter on productivity, we send newsletter on security, which is called Security Bite, then we send Health Bite. Then also we do a lot of Family Connect, family programs, where we connect not only with the CIOs, but also with their families. Ye Sham Mastani is our flagship program. We do CIO Cricket Cup. Last year we did New Year Bash with Akshay Kumar in India, in Delhi and Mumbai. So we do those kind of family connect. We do a lot of CSR activities. Our members have contributed to Kerala flood, to J&K flood. We also support in case of medical emergency of any CIO. Our members also support that. We take a lot of health initiative. We have conducted runs in Delhi and Mumbai. We introduced golf in CIO community where we taught them how to play golf and then created a tournament. We did meditation sessions. Recently, we have taken initiatives on CIO reskilling. We did certification courses with IIT Delhi and IIT Mumbai. We did masterclass is on artificial intelligence and security. And in this COVID call, when we tech leaders are flooded with webinars, so we thought of taking a pause. And now we are doing only selective relevant programs for tech leaders, focusing mainly on learning and family connect. So in recent time, we have had session on stress management. We did live cooking with celebrity chef from Oberoi Hotel. We did Tech Family Talent Hunt show where many of you were participants. We did Soulful Musical Evening with Amit Kumar. And last week only we did a meditation session for inner transformation. So continuing with the legacy of learning, now we are teaming up with Speakin to start our new initiative, Learning with Experts. Speakin is India's largest consortium of experts. Now I will welcome Deepika, founder of Speakin, to tell you more about Speakin and also about this initiative which we are jointly taking with the Speakin team. So welcome, Deepika.
Thank you so much, Kamalji, and thank you, Ashishji. Thank you, Atul, for this opportunity to be a part of such an august gathering. And it's an honor to be partners with the CIOs of India. I think we keep saying that at different times it is the CFO or the sales drives the organization or marketing drives the message. But I think with the changes that have happened today, it is truly the CIO and everything to do with information, the technology, and the innovation and disruption that you are bringing in today, which has become the backbone of any organization of any shapes and size today. So an absolute honor, and thank you for the opportunity to be the partners with you in bringing this learning initiative. As Kamalji mentioned, my name is Deepika. I, along with Sakshi, are leading this initiative with the CIOs of India, and very, very honored. We are today India's largest network of experts across different genres, and happy to bring this series of learnings. I'm also very, very thankful to Harish Bijoor, a legend in branding, who's come forward. And I think together we believe that as a CIO, as information technology leaders today or information officers, it is not just the contribution that we are making to our organizations, but I think a big part of the responsibility lies to ourselves, where we are able to brand ourselves and put forth us as a person, as a personality, as an individual who can share more and more knowledge, with not just within the organization but outside as well. So in that endeavor, the entire branding exercise, this entire exercise is for you. To build a better brand you, to build a bigger brand you, and take your learnings and be the experts to others who are seeking your knowledge. That's about it that I have today. I hope you have a wonderful session today. It'll be an honor to reconnect with you as well post this session. Thank you, Kamalji. Thank you, Ashishji. And thank you, Atul, once again for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Kamal. Thanks, Deepika, for this brief on CIOs of India and Speakin initiatives. I think without much ado, because I think our fellow members are anxiously waiting to hear from the branding group, I would request, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome branding coach and a living legend, as Deepika mentioned, Harish Bijoor ji, to take over and enrich us with his practical branding tips for the next 45 minutes. Over to you, Harish ji. Happy learning to all of us. Great. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Firstly, I'd like to say that
there's some echo, Harji. There's some echo which is happening. Yeah, there's some echo at your end.
Okay. So let me see if we can cut that. I might as well disconnect the second connection because that's what's causing it possibly. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Firstly, thank you very much for those kind words of welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be here in the midst of members of this august body called the CIOs of India. I'm happy to make this presentation today, which is a dialogue, which is a discussion through the webinar format, which is a bad word today because webinars are so boring. They're so distant. They're so unidimensional, and they're so PowerPoint oriented. And to cut that, when I started on the webinar mode, which is on the 26th of April 2020, just as the pandemic broke in a big way in terms of public memory within the Indian context. Ever since then, I've done 174 webinars. This is my 175th. And I've decided never, 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 ever to use PowerPoint. I have believed power corrupts and PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. And therefore, I have kind of devised n numbers of ways to communicate with you. And that is with my dirty, boring face, looking at you right through and communicating words, and possibly at times to break the boredom of it all, I have created something called a razor prompt. What is a razor prompt? It is, I have taken an ordinary razor from my home, and I've actually added a kind of a post-it pad to it. And sometimes in the middle of my presentation, I'm going to come to you like this and show you what the presentation is all about to give you a subject break. Now, for instance, the title of my presentation is The Power Tool Called You. So the power tool called You is going to stare back at you as a title, as will other titles come to you as we move along. First thing that I want to do is possibly say that it's a pleasure being here at the CIOs of India and Speakin forum. And I'm going to talk to you about this subject from my research and from my practice. So I said I want to speak to you from my heart. I want to talk to you about all the good things about personal branding, and also talk to you about some of the terrible things of personal branding. Because branding is all about that toothpaste, it's all about that shoe, it's all about that dress that you pick off a branded counter. How can you take that crass tool of branding, which is for products which are inanimate, and how can you superimpose them onto animated human beings called people, like you and I? There must be a difference. And that's one of the reasons for decades, a whole decade, for 10 years of my practice. This is my 22nd year of practice as an independent person running a company. I avoided touching personal branding altogether. It was anathema to me because I said personal branding must not be done because it is not correct. In the 11th year, I woke up and I said, maybe there's too many mistakes being made in personal branding and this needs to be corrected, and therefore let's get in, and I got into it, and this is my 12th year in the realm of personal branding as well. So today, I possibly do personal branding exercises for politicians. That terrible word that comes at us and hits us in the solar plexus as a negative word most of the time. But my dear friends, there are good politicians out there as well. And hopefully, when I pick a person to brand, I typically pick better people from the lot that is out there. So politicians, cinema stars, a lot of them wanted. Cricketers, I mean, I enjoy being with cricketers, and many of them require personal branding because many of them enter the field with talent, but unfortunately, when it comes to the branding side of issues, they are a bit naive. And then, of course, business leaders. Many a business leader comes to me and says that, let me see what you can do for me because I want to be out there. CEOs, I do a fair bit of executive coaching. And therefore, as an output of executive coaching, you talk to CEOs and CEOs. They want to be branded. Potential CEOs, people on the fast list within organizations, if it is a company called Levers, they have something called Levers Listers. So it's a question of saying who are the listers in each of the companies and do they require personal branding? And that's where personal branding comes in. The only category of personalities that I've avoided thus far is the religious guru. I have actually had inquiries from as many as 4 religious gurus, but somehow I avoided touching religious gurus because I do believe that must not be done. So what is personal branding all about? Let's kind of, start this exercise, and I'm going to be quick with this. So firstly, I'm going to talk about contexting COVID Kal. What is COVID Kal all about? That we need to understand. And I do believe personal branding is important for COVID Kal for sure, because these are the best of times and these are the worst of times. And I quote Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the best of time for nature. It is the best of time for the birds, the bees, the plants, the air quality. And it was the worst of time for man who was put into a cage because of COVID Kal. And if you really look at it from that perspective, I think COVID Kal is a tough time. And the tough time has resulted in lockdowns which have been really long, and over a period of time, India has emerged to be the worst hit economy in the world with a neg 23.9%, literally between 23.1 to 23.9% neg growth in GDP terms, which means to say that if we were planning for a growth of 5% on GDP, and we didn't get that 5% growth over the previous year, but we got a negative 23.1 or 23.9, which means it's a 28.1 or a 28.9% negative, which means the economy is 1/3 less than the size it was in today. So that's tough times. Jobs, severe trouble in terms of jobs. As many as 21 million jobs lost during the lockdown period. GDP, we just spoke about. And if GDP and jobs go out of the window, what's ahead are really, really tough times. So, in a tough time, the celebratory economy is dead. And I'm really contexting COVID and the pandemic now. The celebratory economy is dead. None of us are going out to those restaurants. None of us are taking those fancy holidays, those flights, staying in the 5-star hotels and enjoying ourselves. The celebratory economy is dead. And in its place has come something called the fear economy. And the fear economy is all about saying that I am worried about shopping, I'm worried about going out, I'm worried about going anywhere. And that has resulted in us redefining the entire way we do things. You and I in the realm of business, you and I who are working people, when we started working, our parents and grandparents possibly would tell us, young man, young woman, go out there and conquer the world. The world is your oyster. Now, my dear friends, I changed that during COVID Kal, and I have tilted those words. The world is not your oyster anymore. Instead, the oyster is your world. And your oyster is your home. You live in a home, and that home is your world. You have nothing much else apart from. And businesses that do well are things that take things into that home. Businesses that are doing well are the OTT businesses which are catering to the entertainment demands of people in the home. All entertainment has become OTT in the home, which means that an Alt Balaji, which you enjoy and I enjoy, and an Amazon and a Netflix, that's our life. And guess what? The second adjunct to it is anybody who brings manna from heaven from outside into the home in terms of bandwidth is a winner. And therefore, all our telcos, all our telecom service providers who have had issues, who have had bleeding bottom lines, have actually started to look up all of a sudden. Anything that comes into the home, e-commerce that brings things into your home, doing exceedingly well. So entertainment in the home, shopping in the home, knowledge gathering and dissemination within the home. So anything that comes in, I think at the end of the day, we live in a world which is progressively saying the world is not your oyster. The oyster is your world. Having said the context, I'm saying that if there is no world to go out into, how are you networking? Networking, not working. Networking, not working. And that's the reality today, because you can't go out. And if for 5 months you've been locked in indoors, how have you been networking? You've been networking just in one way. And that networking format is the digital format of networking that you and I have been doing, which is to say that through WhatsApp, through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram, through, let me not go into other formatted ways. Because I have a client company which is in the space. Okay, let's say Tinder. Tinder has done zoomingly well during the lockdown. People who never knew how to right swipe, left swipe, super like have suddenly been doing all that. And I know it sounds alien to you because none of you know what Tinder really is. Or do you ask yourself that? If you ask me, I think brand you is very, very important at this point of time. Brand you is important because you're locked in. And in a locked in format, the outside world needs to know who you are, what you are. And you need to be remembered, you need to be recalled, and you need to be looked at as a person who needs to be met when you need to be met. Because business begins with networking. And networking not working is a serious, serious issue. Therefore, let me look quickly at the fact that, all communication, this is communication that's going on between you and I, very distant. I would love to be in a fancy hotel, banquet hall, talking to you from there, giving you some personal inputs in a very personal way, physical way, being with you out there. But I can't, and therefore I have to be behind a screen. And if I am behind a screen, then what is this communication going on? It is a kind of digital communication. And therefore, all communication in the world, if you look back, all communication in the world starts 1:1. The best way for me to sell a glass to you is to come to you in front of you and talk to you and tell you all the positives of the glass and tell you that, my dear friends, this is a glass, this is half filled with water, or is it half filled with air, or whatever. I come to you and try and sell you this glass 1:1. That's the best way because your attention span is perfect. When I can't do that, what do? I take the second mode of selling to you, which is 1:many. 1:many is me coming behind a screen like this and selling to you. And when I can't do that, I take on something which is called 1:all, which is, there is a program today to say that in 2027, we're going to be advertising on the moon. 2 companies are trying to vie to be the first ones to advertise on the moon. What a horrible thing to happen. It means in 2027, when you and your partner of either sex are holding hands and taking a midnight stroll, and you look up at the moon and it says, the moon brought to you by Coca-Cola. What a horrendous thought. But that's 1:all. So the best way of communication is 1:1. When you can't do that, which we couldn't do, we went 1:many. And when we can't do that, you do 1:all. And the worst form of communication is 1:all. The best is 1:1. And guess what, my dear friends? We have realized that in the world of digital and digitalism, you and I are talking about 1:1 communication. I am talking to you within the confines of your home. In fact, I have a small AI tool, which I used at my last webinar. I had about 880 people attending, and I actually had numbers which could actually crunch all the videos which could be seen because all the videos were on and I could see, but I can't analyze. But my AI tool was able to analyze and say that 8% of people who are watching it are lying down in their bed on a pillow and watching it. Ouch, nice. And about 4% were wearing jammies. So if you really look at it, I think a webinar tool is 1:1 because tomorrow I'm able to enter into your home and actually find out your locale, what you're wearing, what you're drinking, and what you're eating. Are you really drinking a cup of coffee in that mug? Or is there something else in it? I don't know. But at least if it looks like a coffee mug, like Dipshika, your mug looks like a coffee mug, I would say, hey, that is coffee. And my AI tool would be able to tell me all that, and the numbers could come back, and I could feed it back to you, and you would get excited. Oh God, how does he know all this? And that creates excitement in this 1:1 medium of communication. I am communicating to you 1:1, and digital is that, and digitalism is the new religion, my dear friends. Digitalism is the future, and for brand new building, digital branding and digitalism is going to bring a lot of manna from heaven. So if you ask me, why brand you? Why brand you? Why brand you? Now, why brand you? The idea simply is that you need a brand because you're a name. And guess what? You being a name, you have an identity. You being a name, your identity gives you cues. Haven't you heard the fact that sometimes names give cues and therefore people choose positive names to give their children? So half the time, you know, when you walk into a new office and you suddenly meet a person called Venkat, and you suddenly wonder, could he be like the Venkat from my class in my school days? Venkat, that Venkat is different from this Venkat. The two personas are totally different, but names have a way of giving you association. Your first girlfriend, your first boyfriend, that name that came at you, and suddenly in your office you found someone with that same name. Did that ring a bell, or did it tweak a little bit of something somewhere in your heart? So if you ask me, personal branding is necessary because you are a name, you're an identity, and you have an aura, and your aura is understood by people all over. If I throw names at you now, you know exactly who and what kind of a character this guy is. N.R. Narayan Murthy. Ouch. N.R. Narayan Murthy. Shut my eyes. The softest pillow that you can sleep on is your conscience. Ouch. Nice. Long. A man who once upon a time used to clean his own toilet. And these were not COVID days. I know during COVID days, you and I have been cleaning our own toilets finally. Honest to the core. Squeaky honest. Corporate governance as a phrase which comes out at you. Hey guys, that's N.R. Narayan Murthy. Veerappan the dacoit. Oh, the mustache, the curly hair, the gun, kidnapping of film star Rajkumar, Dr. Rajkumar. I think these images are very related to names. And guess what? Mr. Pawan Bhatia. I hope there's no Pawan Bhatia on this program. If the name hits you and say, oh, Pawan Bhatia, oh, he's a tyrant, a totally honest guy, oh, a complete workaholic, what phrases come out? And therefore, my dear friends, personal branding is about you, and it's very important because when people think of you, what do they think? What is the first word they think of when they think of you? What are the top 3 words that come to their head? And guess what, my dear friends? Those top 3 words are all that is important in personal branding. When you read the newspapers and you read a name, Harshad Mehta, and that Harshad Mehta is someone new altogether. That's it. You got an image straight into your head. A very positive man, a very well-enabled man, whatever the image is. I'm not going into images, but I'm saying this is what comes to you. If you look at it, in this entire era, when digitalism is the new religion, it is the new religion. It is the new religion because, my dear friends, every 100 years we have some ism or the other hitting at us. And we have had communism, we have had fascism, we had capitalism, and now we have digitalism. And digitalism is the new religion. And this new religion is hitting all of us in personal branding space significantly. Therefore, if you really look at it, digitalism is going to pay big dividends in the personal branding arena. Let me quickly jump into your personal environment now. What is your professional environment like? How does your professional environment look like? Now, your entire professional environment is all about a motley mix of this and that. This is from research evidence, and this research is as fresh as 1 month ago. We researched about 23 top companies in the country across 11 different verticals. 23 top companies, 11 verticals, and we found out what is the work environment like. It's a motley research, and it talks about your professional environment is largely B2B for many, because most people don't face their consumers right out there. If you look at it, mostly about people, it's about human beings. You interact with people all the while. Now, with screens interfering that interaction, mostly about organizational hierarchies. You have a boss, and your boss has a boss, and your boss has a boss, and that hierarchies, and you respect it most of the time. It's about pomposity. every level has a pomposity that you occupy. I am the chief general manager. I'm not only the general manager, I'm the chief general manager. And that pomposity also works. It's about domain specialty. It's about the domain specialty. It's where I am a tech specialist and nobody can come in between. I am an embedded tech guy. I am a IoT guy, full stop. Hey guys, it's about jargon. A lot of us use a lot of jargon in our work life. It's about problems, everyday problem. And that's the reason you are there. And that's the reason I'm there, because we firefight. It's about problems that emerge in our lives. It's about firefighting. No day goes without firefighting. You know that. I know that. And particularly if you're a CIO, I think you know what I'm talking about masks. We are wearing masks most of the time, not the face mask that you and I are wearing today, but it's those masks which we wear. Nobody knows who I am. Very few people know who I am. I am not who I am. Maybe my wife knows who I am. I'm not too sure. Maybe. Okay. It's about masks at the workplace. Please remember. What else is there in the professional life? It's mostly about targets. We have targets to achieve, mostly about business solutions. It's about every business solution that stares at us, at our faces. And it's about fast growth. We want growth in the entire business structure. It's about the young in the midst of the iGen. If you really look at it, our workplaces are people with a lot of young people. We have a new word, a phrase. There's a new ism called ageism. And do you see ageism in your organization? Just yesterday, I did a webinar on ageism, but I won't go into that. It's about the young. It's about a sea of the young with an island of the old sitting around that. If your organization is all of 100 people, my research tells me that as many as 17 are people beyond the age of 50. And as many as 29 are beyond the age of 40, which means that the 39 and below are a large number of people. And that's young people. And you are in the midst of an ocean of the young, about systems and processes and more. And who else than a CIO to understand that much, much better? We can go on and on, but I won't talk about the work environment too much at this stage. I would rather say, let's start with the brand. And I'd like to ask the question, what is a brand? What is a brand? And when I ask that question, what is a brand? The typical answer that comes to me is the brand is a name. The brand is a slogan. The brand is a color. The brand is an icon, etc. My definition of a brand is a simple one. And that's the title of my book as well. I simply say the brand is a thought. The brand is a thought. And that's the title of my book as well. The brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind. Nothing more, nothing less. Then people ask me, and I define the brand. The brand is a thought. And they say, and? I say, and nothing else. Every thought in your mind is a brand. The name Deepshika is a brand in your name. The name Speakin is a brand in your mind. It tells you that it's this really, really professional organization out there. CIOs of India. It's as obvious as it comes. Your branding is terrific. Nobody can imagine that you're anything else but the CIOs of India. And you are the CIOs of India eventually. So if you really ask me, what is a brand? The brand is a thought. When I think CIOs of India, I know exactly what it is. When I think of Speakin, I know exactly what Speakin is. Full stop. So if you ask me, what is a brand? The brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind. But in every person's mind, that thought of Speakin is different. If there are 200 people on this webinar, if I take each one of you separately and ask you, what do you think of Speakin? Each one of you will give me a different phrase back. And that's branding, my dear friends. The brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind. As many people, that many different versions of that one thought. If there are 200 people out here, in each of your mind, some of you will take Speakin and say 2 out of 10. Some of you will say 7 out of 10. Some of you will say 10 out of 10. But not all of you will talk the same number. Good branding is getting all your consumers to have the same idea of your brand, the same quantitative idea of your brand, and the same qualitative idea of your brand. If you take one brand name and if you take Atul, that's it. Every member of CIOs of India has the same image of Atul, full stop. Nothing at all. That's perfect branding. But if different people have different kinds of image, somebody says Atul at 2 and somebody says Atul at 10, there is a problem. So if you really ask me, personal branding is about calibrating the minds of consumers, because the brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind, and as many people, that many different thoughts. So personal branding is about positioning yourself right. If you look at it, half the time, you know, I keep saying, I was in Germany some time ago, and somebody asked me, Professor Bijoor, you keep talking about brands so much. Can you really tell me a little bit more about what is brand? Can you define a brand using an Indian Sanskrit word? No, she got me. I was in Germany, and Germany has more Sanskrit scholars on their rosters than India has on our rosters. Sanskrit is a big language in Germany, right? So she says, Professor Bijoor, can you tell me, give me a definition of a brand using the Sanskrit word? I scratched my head, but I was reasonably quick. And I said, Madam, the brand is Maya. The brand is Maya. The brand is Maya. Maya? Yeah, it is here. And it is not here. So the brand is not a physicality. The brand is a metaphysicality. The brand is Maya. And what is Maya? Maya exists differentially in different people's heads. One brand, different thoughts in different people's heads. And what is a brand? A brand is a name. If I throw a name Kingfisher at you, Kingfisher, and if I was able to ask you, what is Kingfisher? Literally every one of you would feel very happy and say, oh, Kingfisher is a beer. Okay. Some might say it's an airline. Kingfisher is a beer. Hang on, guys. Kingfisher is a bird. Kingfisher is a bird. Dr. Vijay Mallya has gone out on a limb and has created the image, so much so that you and I have forgotten that Kingfisher is a bird. So Kingfisher is a beer, an airline, and then a bird. Power of branding, power of personal branding can go beyond levels all the time. Believe in personal branding, my dear friends. If you really look at it, the brand is a very powerful thought. And this powerful thought has got 3 facets. The 3 facets of a brand are very important for you to understand. One is called the brand personality. And the brand personality is what you see. Second is called the brand character. Something that you can feel with experiences you have had with that person. And the third is called brand charisma. Under some people, when you meet them first time round, you say, wow, he's a good guy, she's a good person. Happens, right? What is that? That's aura. Hey, listen, 3 facets of a brand, and the 3 facets of a brand are, one is brand personality, what you can see me. Brand character, and you don't know my character, we have not had interactions between. I could be a lousy guy, a scheming guy, a plotting guy, a terrible guy, but you don't know because I'm wearing this mask. And the third thing is brand aura, which very few people have. So if you ask me, these 3 facets are very important. And therefore, my dear friends, in personal branding, ask yourself this question. What people think when they think of you? That's personal branding. What do people think when they think of you? That's personal branding. What do they think of you? Ask that question. In one sentence, can they tell you what they think of you? Go back home. In fact, you're possibly at home. Just get out of your room and go out there and ask the one person who can define you perfectly, your spouse, hopefully. Ask him or her, what do you think of me? And don't ask her. Ask her to write it down. In one sentence, what do you think of me? That's your personal brand with your wife or your husband. Go ask your children. What do you think of me? That's your personal brand with your children. Guess what? What your wife thinks of you does not match what your children think of you. What your son thinks of you does not match what your daughter thinks of you. What your mother thinks of you does not match what your wife thinks of you. What your father thinks of you does not match what your mother thinks of you. What your father-in-law thinks of you, God, doesn't match with what anybody thinks of you. So if you really ask me, guys, in one sentence, that's the definition. Therefore, I do a fair bit of work in industry, and I was doing this work for a large end-to-end services company, which had about 80,000 plus employees with them. And we were doing this massive exercise with them to understand, the work environment within that company. So we went and asked all the employees, 80,000 of them, hey, listen, what do you think of the company over a period of time? We came back, brought a scale, and literally, God, this company was God's gift to mankind. Yeah, it is a big company. It's a very old company. It's a 30-year-old company in Indian IT end-to-end services space. But so what? No company is that perfect. So I suspected that figure because my team went and asked all the working people within the company, what do you think of it? And they gave you this response. And this company was a 9 on 10 in terms of ratings with the consumers. Hey, listen, then what I did is I turned the thing. I took about 2,000 houses, 2,000 employees out of those 80,000. And I said, only these 2,000, let's go and talk to the spouses of the people who work in that company. Because who knows the company best? The individual who's working in the company. When you go and ask that individual, what do you think of the company? He'll tell you something, which is reasonably rosy. But who knows the company the best, next best in his home, his wife or her husband? And guess what? When you went back and asked the spouse, 2,000 divided equally across both the genders, guess what? This company came out on a 4.2 on 10 because the wife knows best. The husband knows best. When the wife comes back home tired from a working day, the husband is the one guy who's listening to all her angst, all her pains, and she's really talking stuff about her bosses, and she's saying how terrible a company this is, how they're squelching me. Guess what, guys? Reality rests in the minds of people. And you should be able to get into the minds of people in a reliable manner, and that's the only way to go. So if you ask me, what is this business all about? How do people think of you? In one sentence, what do they think of you? In one word, what do they think of you? You need one word as well. Hey, listen, in one thought, what do they think of you in one thought? Is it a positive thought? Is it a negative thought? Is it a neutral thought? And that's dangerous. Is it a politically correct thought? As my guy in that IT end-to-end services was telling about his company, that was a politically correct thought. That's the horrible thing. We want the truth. We want a real thought. You as your personal brand, you want a real thought. You want people to tell you who you really are. And do people have two thoughts about you? Oh God, that's dangerous. Do people have two thoughts about you? That's Jekyll and Hyde. That's dangerous. A unified brand, a personal brand must have one thought. And that one thought is very, very important. Do some people have 6 thoughts about you? Oh God, that's dangerous. I hope not. I hope not. And how many sit on the fence to tell people who they believe you truly are? That means after 10 years of being with someone, working in the same company, people don't know who you really are. Hats off, guys. You won that mask beautifully. Personal branding is not about wearing a mask. Personal branding is about being you and being proud about being you. If you are a thug, position yourself as a thug. Don't try to mollycoddle. And I tell people who come to me, I get political personas who come to me. I say that if you're a thug, please talk like a thug. Position yourself like a thug. Please don't try to mollycoddle your image because that's wrong. That's lack of integrity. One of the basis of all personal branding, my dear friends, is that one word called integrity. So we'll talk a little bit about it. I'm going to break in a little while for a set of Q&As very soon. And maybe I'll go on for another 7 to 8 minutes and then take a, then take a set of questions. Think, who are you? And that's your personal brand. If you went back to your 20 constituents around you, 20 consumers of you, you're the brand, there are 20 consumers around you. Your wife is a consumer, or your husband is a consumer, your children are consumers, your father, your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, go to the outer circle, your teachers are your consumers, your colleagues are your consumers, people who work immediately with you are your consumers, your CEO is your consumer, hey, your vendors are consumers. Go and get a sample size from each one of them. And that's what I do when I sit with people who come to me for personal branding, that I go and explore them from their various personas, research and come back to them and tell them, hey, this is what you are. And if I am to personally brand you, I would like you to be this and nothing but this. And that this is not mollycoddling. It's who you are. It's presenting who you are in the most presentable manner. Okay. Presenting who you are in the most presentable manner, which means if you're a thug, it's presenting a thug in the most presentable manner possible, but technically presenting it for likability. So if you like it, over a period of time, there's something called the lovable devil. There's something called, a devil you like. I mean, I like one devil on Netflix as of today, which is called Lucifer. Okay, I love him. Now, the point is, can a devil be lovable? Can you be made to be lovable? Yes, you can. Have we made lovable politicians out of terrible personas, keeping to the terrible personas, deepening those terrible personas? Yes. Have we done that to cricketers? Yes. Have we done that to business leaders? Yes. So if you ask me, one key word, however, is integrity. Never move from integrity. A wolf in sheep's clothing is not good personal branding. A wolf in wolf's clothing, acceptable wolf's clothing, a sheep in sheep's clothing is what branding is all about. Simple. Personal branding is all about integrity, which is very, very important for you. You as a brand, you as a personal brand, my dear friends, are a function of your actions. Every action that you've committed over the last 5 years, which is remembered by people, if not 20 years, because people have very old memories, you are a function of your actions. You are a function of your inactions. At workplace, if you were meant to be doing something, you didn't do that, that is inaction, and that is defining your personality. Be careful about that. You are a personality, a brand, is a function of your acts of commission. What did you do? Your acts of omission. What did you not do when you must have done it and you didn't know you should have done it? You are a function of your reputation. And at the end of the day, personal branding is the collective amalgam of your reputation, which is packaged well and truly and technically and presented to the outside world and presented to you so that you become a reality. You are a perception, my dear friends. Your personal brand is a perception. And guess what? I keep saying sadly, 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 underlined 3 times, highlighted, sadly, 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 perception is more important than the truth. Perception is more important than the truth. Ouch! That's a sad thing. But fact is that, and I think in personal branding, extremely important for you to keep that in mind. The brand at the end of it all is a perception. It is Maya, for sure. It is a metaphysicality. It is more important than the truth. And if you really look at each of these things, it's extremely important for you to put into place a very powerful personal brand for you. But when you put that, base it on research, base it on a technical way of looking at yourself. Because you as a brand are a friend. You as a brand is a friend. A brand is a powerful magnet. A brand is a powerful perception. A friend, powerful magnet, powerful perception, very important stuff. Build it with integrity and pack it with integrity. That's something that personal branding is all about. Personal branding, you are not a toothpaste. You cannot be branded like a toothpaste. You are not a shoe. You cannot be branded as a shoe. Your personal branding is about your personality, your character, and your charisma. These 3 aspects, all equally important, are going to be carefully crafted when you build your personal brand. So try and build your personal brand, because at this point of time in life, your personal brand is very, very important, because this is the day and age of digital, and digital gives you the tools to percolate the personal branding out there. We'll talk about some of those words, but the key word remains integrity. My dear friends, The brand U is a distinction. The brand U is a standout value. The brand U is a recognition. The brand U is a unique value. The brand U is really a unique promise. A brand U is visibility as well. What is visibility? Branding is how you appear to be out there. You're a distinction. You are a standout value. You are a recognition. You are a unique value. You are a unique promise. 5 things. And visibility is extremely important as to how you're visible out there in the big bad world of consumer brands. So if you really ask me, visibility is very important, and visibility is important. Many of us do it wrong. Many of us do it right. Visibility is all about, sometimes we tend to say we have an Eastern mindset most of the time. There are many of us who say, I do my work. I work 100. I don't talk about it. My work will speak for me. That's one approach which is Eastern. There is a Western approach which says, I work 100. I'm going to talk 150 about it. Now that is wrong. But that's called the boosting up effect that people tend to use. That's where people make mistakes. I work 100. I won't talk about it at all. My work will speak for me. Eastern concept. This is also suboptimal. I work 100. I talk 150. It's a Western concept. Not okay. I still remember walking in Rochester on a street, and I met a hobo, a guy who was actually living in a hutment and who was begging for food, etc. And in the US in those days, when you were walking across one another, the guys would look at you and smile. So I too smiled at the hobo. And then I met another hobo, and that time I got a little more courage and said, I smiled and I said, how are you doing? How are you doing? And when I said, how are you doing? The guy said, ruddy good man. Ruddy good man. Means I don't have food. I don't have anything. I am sleeping out. I'm in a shanty. I'm in a bad space, but I'm ruddy good. Well, that's a way of showcasing yourself and saying, there's a Western concept that says that even if you're down, don't show people that you're down. I think that's totally wrong. If you're down, if somebody comes up to me on a bad day and asks me, how are you? What do you say? I'm okay. Okay is average. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm doing very well. Guess what? Most of the time, you want to showcase yourself saying, I'm doing good. But no, if you really ask me, oh no, I had a bad fight with my wife this morning. My kid gave me trouble because he's in the 11th standard at this point of time, and he's doing badly in his main math. And you don't tell all these things to people, right? But good personal branding is about being honest, straightforward, integrity in communicating everything you want to communicate. So if you really look at it, don't take the Eastern format of saying, I do my work 100, I will not speak even 1, my work will speak for me. Don't take the Western format and say, I work 100, I will talk 150 about it. You have to be mid-path. I work 100, talk 80. Because when you talk 80, people will expect 80 from you. Your work is quality 100. You talk only 80. People will expect 80 from you. And when they see your work, they get 100 delivered. They get plus 20. And that's a fantastic thing to be. But don't overtalk, don't undertalk too much as well. So if you look at personal branding is a skill, it's a craft. To each one of you, there will be a way of handling it. And if you really look at it, I think, the Eastern philosophy versus the Western, I've always chosen the Eastern philosophy because I think we have to be real, we have to have integrity about it. We cannot follow the way in which brands of jeans and brands of shoes and brands of everything that have been promoted over a period of time. Toothpaste, for instance. I mean, just as a parting story, I'd like to say that, I knew of a toothpaste from a very big company, and this brand actually advertised itself as a toothpaste with oxygen in it. Oxygen in it. And you know what the advertising was? The toothpaste. Now, toothpaste market has a problem. In the beginning, there was white toothpaste, USPs, the unique selling propositions. There was white toothpaste. Then there came red toothpaste. Then there came yellow toothpaste. Yellow toothpaste bombed because White toothpaste said white toothpaste for white teeth, and yellow toothpaste had to say yellow toothpaste is equal to yellow teeth. Nobody wants yellow teeth. Then came the gel, see-through gel. Then came gel with sparkles in it, red gel, blue gel, green gel. And then finally comes a toothpaste which says the toothpaste with oxygen in it. This is moving from the sublime to the ridiculous. And this is over-promising. And what was oxygen in the toothpaste? They had a terrific advertising. They had a dating situation, a boy and a girl sitting with one another at a table, at a round table. There's a candle in between their table. Boy looking into girl's eye, girl looking into boy's eye. It's a romantic situation. Girl opens her mouth to talk and the candle goes boom. You know why? Because there was oxygen in the toothpaste she used to brush her teeth in the morning. Now that's ridiculous. Now, guys, you can't brand human beings with ridicule and ridiculous stuff like that. Branding humans, personal branding is sublime. Branding products is ridiculous. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm going to close and I'm going to say a big thank you to you and take questions from now on for how many of the minutes that we have left. Thank you. I've of course left you a hashtag, a kind of a ampersand Harish Bijoor, which is an ID where if I don't take your questions today, if we don't have time for questions, you're welcome to either email me at harishbijoor@hotmail.com or get on to Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn and send me your questions. And if you say that you were at this CIOs of India and Speakin fora today, I promise to reply to you within 24 hours flat. So you could get on to me either on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Harish. Thank you so much. I think, Ashish, can we have the questions now?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Harish. That was a power-packed, session. Thank you so very much. And, with the kind of vigor and with kind of passion you speak about personal branding is phenomenal. I have taken a couple of, takeaways from this session for myself. You mentioned 1:1 is the best way of, building the, branding. You mentioned that, if you want to build your brand, the best way to start is that, you start and, talking to your family, people who are closer to you, and, ask that what do they think about you in top three things which they think about you. You also mentioned, do 100, talk 80. I love that. You talked about, brand is Maya. So that is another thing which I really, really love. And visibility is very, very important. Now since I've been given this responsibility, let me be a little selfish and start with my questions first. So the first question I have is, in the current day and age, when social media is playing a very, very vital role in terms of building your personal branding, what is your advice that what channel one should use to build his brand? How much he should use a particular channel? What all he should post and where to start from? If you can just give some guidance on that.
Okay. My belief is that personal branding has got many dimensions. One of the dimensions is you personally brand for yourself. That's the first one. So typically what I do is I draw an inner circle, and then around it I draw another outer circle, keep drawing outer circles. The innermost circle is the smallest unit of society, which is you, which is I. I is the smallest unit of society. So I must personal brand myself for myself. I must be able to respect myself. So the first thing is, when you brand for yourself, you don't need any tool to brand for yourself, because that communication medium is you. It's within you. It's your antaratma. It's within you. So I sit down and I dig and I brand for myself, and I say, this is what I will respect forever. And this is what I will take with me on my dying day with 100% integrity. So the second circle I draw around I is my family of 4.5. I say 4.5 because the Indian census says there are 5.5 people in an average Indian family. I've gone to every Indian home, never found half a person. That's how statistics are. So 4.5 people of your family, how will you brand to your wife, your son, your father, your mother? Now here you need a medium, and the medium is communication, and that is 1:1. The next circle I draw outside it is your community. You live in a community. You have to brand yourself for that community. You have to first be a community leader. And that community could be your office community, it could be a home community, it could be a social community where you do social service. You could be a Rotarian, you could be a Lion, you could be somebody in social service in any organization of any kind. It could be at CIOs of India, because you have that facet as well. So how do you brand that? There you are now talking about mediums such as WhatsApp, because that's 1:1, still 1:1. Because when I receive a WhatsApp message, even on a group chat, it's still 1:1 because I know who's sending it and I can interact directly with that person. So the medium is still restricted. The first is I, then it's my family of 5.5, and then is the community, and then an outer circle, and in this outer circle is the city. How do you brand yourself for the city? Now, it's quite likely that you could be using a publication. Many of you write positioned articles for the outside world. What is it you're doing? You're trying to position yourself to the outside world, and you're telling them that this is my mind. Peep into my mind, come in there. Out there, you have a medium, you have print, you have television, you have radio, you have possibly other digital mediums. And this is where you are branding yourself widely. And in comes every digital medium here. And the mediums that I like are, well, there's Facebook, and there is, of course, Twitter, and there is, of course, Instagram, and there is, of course, LinkedIn. Extremely critical to take your one image and brand it to different constituencies of consumers. LinkedIn has a particular type of consumer. You have to showcase that aspect. Instagram has got a very young and different type of consumer. Showcase that. Twitter has got a very young, impatient, character-led, number of words, character-led, number of characters-led kind of audience. You have to be there in that avatar. And if you want to go on to any other medium, it could be Instagram, Twitter, 23 other mediums. There is a way. So therefore, a cusp between the inner medium, which is you, cusping with the external medium, which is typical traditional media like television, print, radio, etc. Cusping with digital medium, which is overall out there. So I think, your image, you need to be understanding what you're communicating. But again, one key word, integrity. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll now pick up, a few questions from the audience. So, Mr. Anindya Rai, if, team, if you can bring him on the video. His question is, while he's coming on the video, Mr. Bijoor, how did you build your own brand? Please tell us something about the journey from unknown Bijoor to known and famous Bijoor, the challenges in the journey, and any top 5 tips to use and any top 5 things to avoid so that we can learn from it to build our own personal brand.
Okay.
Thank you. Fantastic question.
Very good question, because I think I emote with it, and therefore I'm going to give you an answer from my heart, straight out of the heart. I'm not sure whether I'm all that famous, etc., but that's a journey. That's a journey. If you really look at it, when I started, I started with Hindustan Unilever Limited, in those days called Brook Bond Limited, and I started as a management trainee. And when I started as a management trainee, that is my first exposure to the world out there. Now out there, nobody knew about personal branding, and nobody understood what personal branding is, and neither did I. I've told you that, my entire career with Unilever or with the Tatas or with the telecom company later, and even after starting this company of mine, I was totally shunning and avoiding personal branding, because I always thought that personal branding must not happen, because you are who you are. You represent who you are. You walk the walk and you talk the talk. And just as long as you walk the talk and talk the talk and walk the talk that you talk, you are a great brand. But over a period of time, I understood that there are new techniques and ways coming in. And therefore, after all these years of being innocent, I was very innocent of being, totally away from the branding network. I became a brand manager myself within Unilever. And when I became a brand manager and I started selling those face creams and the ice creams and the tea and coffee and condoms and spices, over a period of time, I realized that, hey, listen, guys, this is how things are branded. And the first year that I experimented with what I wanted to brand myself as was at a point of time when I started writing. I started writing early. I used to write letters to the editor, which used to get published in the papers, and I'd get a big kick seeing my name out there. And that's branding, guys. Articles, I started writing articles. When you write articles, I started writing articles about business in the beginning. And everybody, it was an obvious thing. A business guy writing a business article was obvious. Then I moved out into social arenas. Then I moved into political arenas. Then, you keep moving into different terrains. So everything that you do in this space is branding to an extent. Crazily, when I started my company, as a last bit to this answer, I want to tell you that I run a very crazy company. I've run this company for the past 20 years, okay? And started in 2000. When I started the company, we were just two people. And you know what we did? When we started the company, I said, I've always been a client. I cannot be a vendor. And therefore, I client rejig the company in the sense that we have several philosophies. Philosophy number one is, I am a zero solicit company, a branding guy, talking about the fact that you're zero solicit. You know what zero solicit is? Yeah. We don't solicit business.
Correct. Yeah.
We don't have a business development manager, single business development manager. We have 89 people. Each one of them are senior consultants, which means they're workers. They only work the work. They don't talk the work. There's only one person who talks the work, and that is I, because I am the founder and I happen to be the CEO of the company. But I don't have a website, because a website is solicitation. I have a website which is a window of 3 pages that does not offer any window to the kind of work we do. We don't participate in RFPs. What? Companies want you to be a vendor, a partner. You don't participate in RFPs. We don't participate in tenders because that's solicitation. We don't have a deck which introduces the company to others. We don't make PowerPoint presentations to clients introducing ourselves. We don't wine and dine. I say W-H-I-N-E and dine. And that's a standard practice in consulting organizations, that you have to network and wine and dine people and then get in. No way. Business happens. Business happens by word of mouth. And word of mouth is word of reputation. I've run this business 20 years. A lot of people have criticized me. Some of the biggest companies which come to India and say, you don't do RFPs. You don't have a business development person who can come and meet us. What kind of a company you are? Well, they think twice, because when they hear from their management teams that Harish Bijoor Consults is a company that does not come and meet us unless they are paid for that meeting. We go to meetings, even speculative meetings, but we will be paid for that meeting. Now the guy says there are 20 other guys who are coming to me without being paid, and they're chasing us. They're whining and dining. They're doing all this. They're making presentations. Why should I go to a guy who doesn't do all this? The guy goes back and thinks. And guess what? Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. It could be a complete marketing gimmick. But when he thinks that, there's one guy in the space of 21 guys in India who do this kind of work, and this guy doesn't do what the 20 do, he must be good. I don't know if we are good. We must be terrible. But this works. Zero solicit works. What is zero solicit? It's humility branding to that extent. And to that extent, I think that's an answer to your question as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're saying you position yourself accordingly and, stick to that position, walk the talk, rather than, talk the talk. The next question I would want to bring up is Mr. Sunil Serohi. If team can bring him on video. His question is, to know about your own brand, getting feedback from people will help. I guess, would that be a good mode to adapt? There is that Johari window concept. I'm not sure what is that. Would that be a useful input for building your brand?
Very much, very much. Sunil, I'm very much with you on this. The Johari window is a terrific tool to use, but the Johari window is slightly old at this point of time in terms of saying that, there are newer tools which have emerged which can give you better answers as to what people think about you. because again, I'm saying, simplification is the biggest complication. The more you simplify, the more you are getting complex answers to who you are. Feedback is a fantastic means. For instance, let me give you, I used to be with the Tatas for about 8 years, and I used to be with what is today Tata Consumer Products Limited, which used to be Tata Tea Limited in those days. I used to do every year, I was the Vice President Marketing, and every year my entire team would be given a chore. And the entire chore was they have to tell me what they think of me, okay? Which means that they had to write out an essay as to what they think of me. And then I would ask them to translate that essay handwritten into a typed on the computer kind of thing. And then I would ask them to take a printout of that without their names.
I've done
And
that.
then I would ask those ballots to be posted to a separate person's name and address, and that person was one of the reputed persons in the company who would not be the Vice President Marketing's sidekick. And I would get all these 800 and odd responses, and then I would, now see, the thing is, they know, I don't know who's saying what, because when you ask somebody something about yourself, they'll tell you on your face, they don't tell you the right thing. This is a blind ballot. And then I would get that stuff. Then we put them on a matrix network. Then I'd call a meeting of everybody in different spaces that I went to, and I would give them a personal feedback of what they thought of me, and some lousy things as well. Okay, see, listen, if you're working in an organization, you're a terrible guy because then you have to do terrible things as well. Half the time you're shouted at somebody, you lost your temper, and I was a terrible guy. But the moment they see integrity in you, communicating the feedback that you got, the next year's feedback, I did this for 7 years. The next year's feedback is even richer because the next year they know, nobody knows, and I can say what I want. And this was a tool for me to improve myself. So feedback, my dear friend Sunil, when you say feedback, I'm totally with you. Do it in whatever way you want. We do it differently because,
I have been also doing it anonymously. The way you explained, that is the only way to get the right feedback. Otherwise, it becomes very, very biased.
Wonderful, Sunil. Wonderful. I think it's a terrific practice. Kindly continue.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. I'm flooded with questions, and I'll pick up a few of them. I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody's question. So the next question is from Atul Anand. His question is an interesting one. Do you see if meditative practices help in building brand aura charisma for you since we wear different masks in different roles?
Oh my God, whose question is this?
Atul Anand.
Atul, I think again a very terrific question. Okay, because this is a space I haven't spoken about it here, but I use it in my brand building practice. Meditative practice, the ability to do something simple like even breathe, the ability to sit down and breathe and do anulom vilom, okay, that itself, or getting into slightly deeper meditative practices. Great way, because I've told you that one of the first things that you need to do is discover yourself. And in the discovery of yourself process, I've never done this, okay, because I'm an accident in the world of personal branding, and I shunned it for a long time. But people who are looking at branding yourself, meditative practice is a great way of being in touch with who you are, who you really are. And I think it's a terrific foundation point to start off. In fact, I've written a paper on this. If you're interested, you could always come to my Twitter handle, which is @Harish Bijoor, and pick it up, which does talks about the relationship between branding and meditative practice. But terrific question. If you're doing it, wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
The next question I have from Rakesh Verma. His question is, how reliable is first impression of the person in terms of appearance to understand his/her personality, provided you have future connects with him or her, and how important is appearance looks in personal branding? I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible. I think.
Harish ji is on mute right now. I think it's put off his video. I think
we have lost this connection. from
He's
the
connected
first
on
device.
another device. He should be
Yeah,
coming.
he's connected from other device.
Ashish, how much time do we have?
I think we are closing in 5 minutes.
Sure. Is it possible
Sakshi?
that one of us calls him and tells
Yeah,
him that he's...
Sakshi, can you reach out to Harish and
Yes,
inform him?
yes, I'll absolutely do that. Yes.
There are so many questions. I don't know which one to take and which one not to take.
I think we can
Harish
take
has already
couple of...
said that he would be responding to all those questions within 24 hours. So if people whose questions are not answered, they can write to him at harishbijoor@hotmail.com with the mentioning of CIOs of India and Speakin. So he would be personally answering all the questions within 24 hours. That's what he has promised. So,
or what we can also do, Kamal, is that we can compile these questions and send it across.
We can also do that. Yeah, we can also.
I think
do
that will, because individual sending it may not.
So we will compile. So Ashish, please compile all the questions. We will send one.
Harish, you're there.
Yeah. Am I visible to you?
You're audible, not visible yet.
Audible. Okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I think
your audio is gone again.
You're on mute, it seems. Yeah. I think digitalism is at work. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Am I okay now?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Okay. So if you really ask me, wait, let me come back to the question. You're talking about first impressions. Now, first impressions are very, very important because what is the first impression?
Richie, you are on mute, it seems. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
you're audible now.
Yeah.
Audible? Okay. See, first impressions are very important in some because first impressions actually help you create an aura around the person. You're reading the aura of the person, but you should be able to read the aura of the person reliably. Now, do you have that ability to read the aura of the person reliably is the key question. Now, do you have the capability of doing that? Somebody who's been into meditative practice, I think, that's a person who is able to do it beautifully. So much of the time, if you have the aura, please go ahead and rely on it. But most of the time, we get disconnected. We are not in connect with people. We don't know how to read people. So if you read people wrong, then that's a problem. But this is a skill in itself. Thank you.
Okay.
Ashish, I'm sorry. Ashish, I'm so sorry. I'm interrupting. No, I have a question which I'm just seeing on the on the page as well. Just I'll quickly have one question that when we talk about these 20 individuals who are in close proximity to all of us, each one of us would have those 20, 25 individuals. So many of them may be a beneficiary of sorts from our existence. Let's set aside the family part, but it could be your vendor partners, your business partners, or maybe your team members. And it may be difficult to get the appropriate feedback. And we all believe that we have set up this aura. So, and we actually start living in a make-believe world. We start believing that what we know of ourselves is the truth. So and you said that we can do these feedback sessions, but then I don't know how many of us actually would do that feedback. But is there a better way to be more grounded and actually start working on this branding exercise, so to say?
Okay, a very quick way is we have tools. So I'll tell you what I do. I do something called executive coaching. So when I get into executive coaching, what really happens is I meet people and I kind of do a 360-degree understanding of the individual by looking at his sets of immediate and distant consumers. So I'm able to come back to him or her and tell them straight away that, hey, listen, these are your pluses and these are your minuses, and these are the situational issues that you're facing. So if you can't do it yourself, you have to call in a professional to do it. But the first thing to do is try and do it yourself. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Atul. The next, I'll take last two questions, and we promise you, as Kamal said, we will come back to you with all the questions. Harish has said that we'll write to him consolidatedly to get all the responses. The next question I have is from Parna Ghosh. He says, get your branding survey done on a quantitative basis. Human brand as a social personality, not professional brand. Can we bring Parna to clarify on this question? I'm not very sure.
Need some clarification there.
Right. So just in the interest of time, I'll jump to the next question, which is from Suparna has again written on the Q&A that my question is, please communicate to Harish ji, how do you create a strong brand while in stressful and difficult conditions? Your time flies out while performing operations, fixing issues, KTLOs, etc. Brand building takes a backseat. How do you come out evolving as a winner? Build a strong, respectful brand of yourself. This is in your professional life.
Okay. Very simply speaking, it's extremely important to understand that all of us work within companies. Our company is the primary brand out there, we think. And the brands of the company are the secondary brands, we think. And we think nothing of ourselves. It's extremely important for us to understand that the primary brand in this entire relationship is the individual. The smallest unit of a company is the individual. And incidentally, a company is an amalgam of the number of people who work within it. And I think it's extremely important to respect our individual contributions accordingly and ensure that we brand adequately and positively. If I brand myself positively and with integrity, I'm contributing to the company. If I ignore that aspect, one of the resources of the company, incidentally, the most important resource of any company, the individual, is losing out. And yeah, I would close that question with that. And I must say that I have to run away now in 3 minutes because I'm jumping into another terrible thing called a webinar.
Sure. Yeah. I think we are done with the questions, and we'll send you a consolidated list, Harish, post this webinar for you to respond at your ease. With that, thank you so very much. I think it was one of the most wonderful sessions which we have had with the community. Thank you so very much, and I'll just hand it over to Kamal and Atul to conclude it.
Yeah, so thanks from CIOs of India. Thanks to Speakin team, Deepsika and Sakshi. Thanks to Harish ji for bringing this new aspect of personal branding into open and teach us what personal branding is. The most important thing is that your integrity should be there, because perception is bigger than the truth. So you should be, integral in your dealing with the people. I would also like to thank all the CIO community who could come today on a working day and give their valuable time to us. So thank you to all the friends who could join us today. We would be keeping the recording of this session because many of people are asking about the recording. So we will be keeping all the recording also for this. Thank you.
I think, Kamal, I would